Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
Here for the food and maybe love. Want to come back to my place? Now if I, Kai Brand, was given £1 every single time a cute man, or even woman, had said that to me, I wouldn't need student loan in the slightest. And I'm honestly not saying that to sound arrogant, stunning, or like I'm God's gift to humanity, because I'm not. Even the guy who asked me, I think his name was Patrick or something, was a cute man in a tight white silk shirt, tight-fitting black jeans that showed everything I liked about being bisexual, and he was handsome. But he just wasn't my type. Or at least not my type at a university Christmas party in someone's house. I had always really liked the university Christmas parties that always happened in the shared houses a little distance from the university. The shared houses were nice 8-bedroom ones with a wonderful large living room and kitchen. Hence why I was here. I didn't actually know anyone, but I was leaning against a cold tinsel-covered wall next to the food table. I was pretending to enjoy the party, and I just smiled to myself as all the men in their shirts, suits and jeans chatted up young women. Everyone was drinking from cheap plastic cups, and the subtle aroma of weed filled the air. I was definitely going to leave sooner rather than later, because my lungs were bad enough with asthma. I couldn't afford to have an attack from weed smoke, and I just didn't like the smell of weed. It was awful, but it was what happened at university. Something that was certainly a small culture shock when I first moved here a few months ago. So, Patrick asked as he took a step closer and almost fell over. Not tonight, Pat, I said, gesturing him to go away. I was surprised when I weakly smiled and sort of stumbled away. I never did like to be noticed at parties, because that always led to people asking questions, wanting to know what me and my course was, and most importantly, they noticed me when I was next to the food table. Thankfully, if I didn't talk to anyone, then no one noticed. I mean, the food table is the best part of university parties, because everyone goes and buys whatnot from the local shop. It's always cheap, high-fat, high-sugar food, which is perfect for me considering this will probably be my only meal for the next few days. The music changed to some kind of slow dance for the couples, and I rolled my eyes. I had never liked slow dances. Even when I did have a boyfriend, I was always active, doing something and wanting to move on. I didn't have time to slow dance. Anyway, with everyone focused on the cute couples slow dancing in the dim light of the living room, I turned my attention to the delightful food table next to me. The advantage of being so gay, in the words of my friends and foes alike, was that no one actually batted an eyelid that I carried a small purse with me. So I popped my purse open. I took about 5 warm chocolate chip cookies for tonight. I grabbed the container of vegan cheesy pasta to last me until Monday because I could, and then I grabbed a few packets of pretzels. I really didn't like them, but pretzels were filling, and I needed the food. I stood next to the table until the slow dancing finished, and I had to admit that it was lovely in a way. It was great to see so many couples in love, smiling and looking into each other's eyes, like the other was the most important person in the entire world. It was cute if not a little sad, because it reminded me how alone I was. It was sort of my choice that I won't be going home for Christmas this year, because my family moved to France a few months ago, and as much as I love France, it's so much better than England. Traveling to see my family would cost way too much. I barely had enough money to live on as it was, with the price of food, my awful wages of working at the local cafe, and my maintenance loan barely covering my accommodation costs. And yes, before you ask, I am living in the cheapest place on campus. When the music changed again to something you could actually dance to, I slid past a group of hot young men that I actually wouldn't have minded talking to and kissing. But I had to escape with my food, so I went into the hallway, looked through the coats to find mine, and then I left. It was simple, really, and stealing everything was even easier. I did love free food. The very last thing I expected the next day was to be awoken at 8 a.m. in the morning by someone pounding on my room's door. I sat up in my bed and just rolled my eyes like I did every morning. I really liked this little flat that was only slightly larger than a master bedroom because it was cozy, warm, and dry. Which was all I really needed in life, but I didn't like the tiny size of it, my wobbly desk, and how I was forced to stack my clothes everywhere because there just wasn't enough room for everything. Whenever I wanted to do my uni work, I had to sit at my wobbly desk in between clothes to my left and a massive pile of textbooks to my right. A pile that I am pretty sure would kill me if it fell on top of me. It wasn't ideal. "Open up. Police," a young man said outside. I rolled my eyes and threw some black jogging bottoms and a loose white t-shirt on and opened the door. Wow. I seriously didn't suspect a hot, sexy GQ model to be standing outside my room in a police uniform. I flat out loved his broad shoulders, insanely fit body, and there was just something about his face. It wasn't cute, hot, or beautiful, it was just, I don't know. There was just something about it that I loved looking at. It could have been his strongish jawline, his little nose, or those dark eyes that were focused on me like I was the most incredible thing he had ever seen. Hi, the young cop said. "Can we come in?" I looked behind the cutie and noticed a much older cop was frowning at me. He was probably frowning at me for the same reason why everyone else frowned at me. He just didn't like my bright and very stylishly done, pink and purple hair that looked stunning in my arrogant opinion. "Of course," I said, gesturing the cops to come in, but the older one took one step inside, frowned, and gestured we should talk in the corridor. I didn't have a single problem with that. At least they wouldn't see my purse or the food I had stolen last night. "What's the problem, officers?" I asked, wanting to appear as normal as possible. "I'm sorry to have to tell you," the cutie said, "but last night there was a lot of weed found at the house party you went to, and a lot of property got stolen. Things like laptops, phones, and food." "Be quiet, Callum," the older one said. "That's a very pretty name," I said out of instinct, and pretended to look embarrassed as soon as I said it. The least I could do if the cops were investigating the theft of food was to charm one of them. Callum blushed. "Thank you. My mother." "Be quiet," the older cop said before looking straight at me. "We have security camera footage of you hurrying away from the party last night. And no one knows who you are, so what were you doing there and why did you leave?" "I was there for the food," I said because it was the truth. "Nice try," the older cop said. "We don't have the theft of food, so why were you there? You live in an awful apartment. Did you want to ruin people's Christmas by stealing their laptops to make quick cash?" I frowned and gestured towards my apartment. "How dare you say that? I am not a thief, and I really was there for the food. I'm a scholarship kid at the best of times. I don't have enough money to live on, and food insecurity increases over winter break." "How?" Callum asked like it was the most important question he had ever asked. "Because," I said, making sure I looked upset to charm Callum further, "a lot of the cafes and places that offer free food all over the university shut down over winter break. I'm not going home, so I can't eat as much. It might take 2 weeks till I have enough money to buy myself a real dinner." Callum took a step forward like he wanted to hug me, and all I wanted to do was let him. He seemed like he was one of the most kindest, beautiful, and caring men I had ever met. He was adorable, and I was really interested in getting to know him better. "Callum," the older cop said. "I unfortunately believe him, and I don't think something who can't afford to eat and live properly is smart enough to do this. I'm surprised he's even at university. They clearly let anyone in these days." I weakly smiled at Callum, as he looked like he wanted to apologize for his boss's behavior, but both the cops left, and the most annoying thing about all of it was that I couldn't stop thinking about Callum all day. A few hours later, I was sitting at my desk looking through my finances for the next 4 days, and just rested my head on the wonderfully soft pile of clothes on my left. And I had to keep looking at the deadly pile of textbooks to my right. I really didn't want them to fall on me. I had checked my finances 3 times now, and I sadly hadn't been lying earlier to Callum. It didn't matter how much money I earned in average tips at the cafe over the next 2 weeks, it really would take me that long to get enough money to eat. It also didn't help that my boss had texted me 2 hours ago to tell me he was dropping me back to a single shift a week for the next month. He just wouldn't have the customers to demand an extra worker, and that just sucked for me. My bedroom still smelt delightful with hints of vegan cheese, juicy sun-dried tomatoes, and vegan ham from the pasta I had stolen last night. It was so good that I needed to pace myself because that container had to last me another 2 days. I grinned to myself as I started wondering what Callum was doing at the moment. Was he chasing down bad guys like the sexy supercop he was? Was he stuck behind a desk doing paperwork? Or was he just being a cute man that could get any person he wanted? I didn't think too much about it, but I would have loved to see him again. He was so kind, and I felt like there was so much more to him to discover, and he just seemed really interesting. I had met a few cops before, and they were never that kind, caring, or nice to me of all people. Most of them just saw I was poor, and just presumed I was guilty as hell. Someone knocked on my door. I rolled my eyes again, at the sheer annoyance of someone interrupting the silence I had been enjoying. I opened the door, and just grinned like a silly little schoolboy, as Callum stood there in a very stunning purple and dark blue checkered unbuttoned shirt with a black t-shirt underneath, and a very nice pair of tight black jeans. He was stunning. Yet it was what he was holding that really caught my eye. It was a piping hot dish of meatballs with some kind of breadcrumb and cheese mixture on top. I looked you up and saw your family moved to France, so I made you meatballs au gratin, Callum said, grinning like this was the biggest accomplishment of his life. My ex-boyfriends used to say I was a terrible cook, so be careful. I laughed and hugged him. He seemed surprised by the hug, but I was doing everything in my power not to cry at the moment. This had to be one of the most kindest, caring, and most sensational things someone had ever done for me. I had no idea what I had done to deserve his kindness, but I loved this. I loved this gift, this moment, and Callum was a cute guy that I really wanted to get to know better. What about the theft? I asked, knowing a cop couldn't gift something to a suspect if the case was still active. Callum smiled. It was that Patrick fella. We found all the weed and cash in his uni flat, so we charged him. We think he sold the laptops and other stuff today, so the case is closed. Well done, I said, hugging Callum a little more, but I broke it and took the meatball au gratin from him. Thank you for this is the best gift ever. Do you want to go out sometime? Callum asked. Of course, I said so quickly I surprised myself. Actually, come on in now, if you're free. We can eat and talk. I so badly needed Callum to say yes, because I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to learn about him, and I really wanted to see if a relationship was even possible. He might have been a cop, but he was so cute. I would love that. I guided Callum into my little flat, and for the next 4 hours we sat on my bed and talked and laughed, and even kissed a little as we devoured his wonderful meatballs au gratin. I loved the sweet tomatoes, the rich, flavorful meatballs, and the creaminess from the cheese. It was heaven. And we both loved that evening, and we started dating ever since. I went to his families for Christmas, and they liked me as soon as I stepped through the door, and life was brilliant. But I have to admit, even though Callum's definitely one of the most interesting people I have ever met, and I seriously love spending time with him, I'm glad he said that he was quitting the police 3 months after we met, because he had missed something major. I stole the laptops and everything that night at the party. Everyone on university campus knew Patrick was the local dealer, and that was perfectly okay, because it meant he always had a lot of cash on him. So that night at the party, I had looked through the coats and bags, making sure I only stole from rich students that could easily get things replaced. Then as soon as the cops left me standing in that corridor, I went down to the local prawn brokers, used Patrick's name. It wasn't hard. And then I simply dropped the receipt off at Patrick's bedroom when I sneaked into the shared house he lived in because they never locked their front door. It was simple, really. That money allowed me to eat properly for a change, look after myself, and my grades improved. And even now, beautiful Callum doesn't have a clue what I did that night to survive, and he never would. He really likes me, and I do like him back.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help us spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteleyverse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.